Assalamu alaikum students. Today I'm going to discuss The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. Arundhati Roy as an Indian author and political activist. She is truly considered a goddess of big ideas. She was born in 24 November 1961 in Shillong, Meghalaya, and she was daughter of Mary Roy, a famous political activist, and Rajiv Roy, who was manager of tea plantation in Calcutta. When she was only of 2 years, her parents divorced and she returned to Kerala with her mother and brother. Her life is very much reflected in this novel, which we are going to study, The God of Small Things, and and the reason is that Arundhati had faced a number of problems in in her childhood time in that patriarchal society. She herself said that as if that we are living in this sort of bubble of complete anarchy. It means that scattered family and that separated family influenced her psychologically very much, and she has same experience in her matrimonial relationship. Arundhati is very controversial figure, as I told you before, because of her subject, because of her theme. She is considered a controversial figure in India. And the second reason, or maybe the very important reason of her controversy, is that she has her own stance about Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and she is the one who has presented her views about Gandhi, and she is the one person um, that she did not keep silence on Kashmir issue. So, being a writer, she wrote for reality, and she doesn't care of the people around her because as a novelist and as a writer and as a social activist, she considers herself a responsible person, and she realizes the responsibility of a writer, of a social activist. And it is very interesting on her part that the readers or the people around her very much analyze and observe her skeptical approach towards traditional values and practices, many of which encourage social inequality and patriarchy and marginalization and many other aspects that we can relate this novel with post-colonial study. The title of novel, The God of Small Things. The title is very important, very significant, very symbolic as far as its literal meaning is concerned and its symbolic meaning as well. The first point which I want to discuss is the theory of uncanny by Julia Kristeva. Like Julia Kristeva has presented her theory, the theory of uncanny. Uncanny means something that is very odd, very mysterious, or unexpected that makes you feel uneasy. So the theory of uncanny is basically it is the psychological experience of something as strangely familiar rather than simply mysterious. I repeat my lines. The theory of uncanny, as I told you, it means something that is mysterious or strange. So, the uncanny is the psychological experience of something that is strange, but we are familiar to it. Like if if we see the story, if we analyze the story, the God of small things, mm, the story of Amu is very strange, but uh, it is not unique. It is not strange in that sense. It is a common story of almost every female has to bear all these situations, all these consequences of patriarchy, consequence in term of injustice, inequality. So uh, it is very much relevant with the theory of uncanny. Secondly, I relate the concept of God with colonizer, who orders, who exploits, who manipulates. Colonizers or the common people, and it would be or it could be the church, the society, the culture, the rules and laws, customs and social institutions, which I would say that eat up all the innocence of children, that eat up all the simplicity of common people, that eats up all that snatches all the things from colonized people. Fine. And small things are the common people, the worthless people, and the inferior people as far as their caste is concerned, as far as their status is concerned. And small things, maybe it relate to the blind imitation of these rules. So the philosophy of Arundhati Roy is that this world is created by the God, not humans. And God has created human, not man and women. It is our society, it is our institutions, it is our churches, it is our laws, it is our custom, traditions, and rules that make us male and female. And it is very much relevant with the philosophy of Hardy. That Hardy is a believer of fate, but here in post colonial studies, there is no place of fate because that place is replaced by colonizer. So, in as Hardy says that nature is not hostile to man, but indifferent to man. And colonizer who acts like God, and the colonized people, the small people, and the worthless people, they are nothing in the world. They have no value in the world. But if we see the title, The God of Small Things, we can say that neither God is human nor human things is human. I repeat, neither God is human nor small thing is human. How? Because God is not human. It acts like the character of Papaji and the character of Chaku and the character of Mr. Holick and all those characters who supported patriarchy like Baby Kochama and Mamaji. They are in a one sense they enjoys the authority like the god. Fine. For example, take the character of Papaji. Papaji orders, exploits, and manipulates, and wants to keep his daughter and wife under his rule or under his command. And it is what we see that injustice breeds injustice. Uh, let's take an example from this novel. Like one day, Papaji is beating his wife with brass, and his son Chaku came and interferes that he doesn't want that Papaji kills or beats his mother anymore. And the reason is not that Chaku is the lover of his mother, but he is also the same person. And maybe he feels that it is against his authority that his mother is beaten by his father. But slowly, what happened that Papaji keeps sitting in the corner of his home and keeps silence. And when he sees Mamaji, he turns his face away. So you see that in one aspect he enjoys the authority, the command of God, being a godlike figure in the start, but after with the passage of time, his son Chaku replaces him, and Papaji has no courage to speak with his son and his wife. After that, Mamaji enjoys instead taking care of her husband. And in the end, Papaji is on the mercy of his wife. And we can also analyze the two aspects of women. The first one is the godlike figure, like baby Kochima, the younger sister of Papaji, and other character that is very much like her, baby Kochima, is Mamachi, and Ammo is the character who is totally different from these two women. Like Mamachi is victimized, her husband beats her, and her husband is cynical and has harsh attitude throughout, and even not respected, and she is not respected by her husband. And if we see the example of Mrs. Ramsay in the novel To the Lighthouse, Mrs. Ramsay never liked her husband, but she is sympathetic to her husband. That is why when she dies, his husband becomes Mrs. Ramsay. He becomes she. But Mamachi never sympathized with her husband. And same is the case with baby Kochama, who acts like God, and she's supporter of patriarchal setup. Although she was also colonized when she was in love with Irish priest, but she couldn't marry him. But the character of Amu is totally different. The character of Amu refers to or associated with the small things, and these two characters, Baby Kochima and Mamaji, is the character who acts like God, and the character of Amu is like the small things. And in the character of Amu, we can say that manless woman has no place, manless woman has no home in India or in South Asian culture. And another character that is Velutha, the lover of Amu, who was beaten as his bones are to be broken. And uh, we can we can say that Velutha is also uh, a small things. If we analyze the title of the novel, then Amu and Velutha both are small things, and the godlike characters are Papachi, Mamchi, and Baby Kochma, Mr. Holick, and all those characters who supported patriarchy. Fine. This novel, The God of Small Things, has been considered a semi biographical story of Arundhati Roy because of her crucial childhood years, and like those of the narrator of her novel Rahil, were spent in the same place, Imnem, a small town near Kottayam, after her mother divorced her father. And most of the locations, most of the places features the god of small things as if it is derived from this town and her surroundings. And she herself said that most of the locations of this novel, The God of Small Things, is based on her own places. As she said, that I grew up in very similar circumstances to the children in the book. She says, my mother was divorced. I lived on the edge of community in a very vulnerable fashion. So we can say that Arundhati Roy is a writer uh, who has written what she felt on her pulse, what she experienced, she has reflected in this novel, The God of Small Things. She is she is reflected in the character of Rahil, and Ammu is the character, the protagonist of this novel, represent her mother, Mary Roy, and all the surroundings, all the locations that also reveals what Arundhati is feeling and what Arundhati is experienced during all his life. The God of Small Things has many post-colonial aspects, and agency is one of them. Agency is very important aspect of post-colonial study, and as I have discussed in my previous lecture, that agency means resistance, rebelliousness, or an action that is uh, to taken to achieve something, or it it can be called a passion, but here I call it a dead agitation that makes the world burn, because in patriarchal setup, in that, in injustice, in inequality, or very stubborn rules that makes the word burn by this dead agitation. And secondly, this novel, The God of Small Things, is a kind of protest of Arundhati Roy against ongoing ideology. Although it's very weak, it is dead agitated, it is very weak, but all the world has considered it, and it is a kind of acceptance that yes, we are accepting. Uh, Being a social activist and being a novelist, Arundhati Roy has said that the political way of looking at the world began. The essence of what one is looking at is deeply political, but how one chooses to express that can change. It is very significant and very deep philosophy of Arundhati Roy. And secondly, she says in in an interview that was a topic with the Finding Justice. In that interview, Arundhati passionately advises her readers to stand up and say something, and never mind if it's been said before. Speak up on your own behalf. So, Arundhati Roy basically enjoys a variety of forms of individual agency, and it is very interesting to observe Roy's skeptical approach towards traditional values and practices, many of which encourage social inequalities. And also, we can say that Arundhati Roy shows anguish towards religious intolerance in that Indian society. And again, I want to talk about that debt agitation. Agitation means a state of anxiety. So, debt agitations mean that like Arundhati is protesting, but that protest is not a very strong one because the injustice and inequality in this society, in this male chauvinist society, is penetrating very deeply. And Arundhati says that we have to strength to think, to fight, and her passionate advice for her reader is to stand up and to speak on on one's own behalf. She says that everybody from smallest to biggest one has some kind of power, and even powerless person has a responsibility. So she says that I don't feel responsible for everybody. Everybody is responsible for themselves. So in this novel, God of Small Things, Arundhati Roy creates a situation in which historical class and caste system and that prejudice seems to have an inexorable and deterministic force. And that is why agency is very significant aspect of this novel. Patriarchy is another important aspect in the post-colonial studies in the God of Small Things. Patriarchy is basically the rule of man. A society, a political society, a male chauvinist society that represent the South Indian culture. And it also highlights each and every incident of this novel that that represent or reflect patriarchy, social injustice, and inequality. Roy portrays a plight of women in three dimensions. The three dimensions are: first is the character of Amu, that Amu's suffocating premarital stay in Imnem, her return with two children to an unwelcoming family, and finally her brief affair with Belutha, which cuts her life short. Secondly, Mamachi is extremely disturbed conjugal tie with Papaji, which results from Chaku's attempt to stop Papaji's regular beating of Mamaji. While the third dimension is Baby Kochima, the younger sister of Babaji. Baby Kochima's basically she is an old lady who loved Father Molignan, and her eventual spinsterhood results in a very crucial and violent manner. Right at center in doleful tale of Amu, mother of Rahil and Istha, whose suffering start in her own house and contributes to her ignoble death. Amu is victim of Papaji's male chauvinist indifference towards the education of women. Amu is most pathetic picture of woman who seeks happiness and love in words turn its back on her. And it also represents the double standards and Chaku's sexual indulgence with low caste women is overlooked as men's need. So we feel a very much a difference in the treatment of these brother and sister by their parents. And as far as Mamachi character is concerned, she is a person who whose all potentials were destroyed by her husband, and all the things that she had pointed pickle marketing, which is not supported by her husband, who retires as scientist without discovering anything. So Mamachi is exceptionally talented in music, but the thing which is which is very important in her character, that she she is a person who is lacking agency, and she is a person who always supports patriarchy because she overlooked the affairs of his son Chaku and considers that affairs as men's need in order to feel more at ease about all the arrangements. And she pays the women who satisfy Chaku's need. And this allow her to view the women as goals. The same mother, the same Mamachi, who condemns the love affair of Amu with untouchable Velutha. So it also reveals the hypocrisy of Mamachi of her son and daughter. While the third character, baby Kochama, the younger sister of Papaji, she is very interesting character who always acts like God and who is always indifferent to human beings. And basically, baby Kochama is the cruel perfection, the embittered, jealous, ignorant, and spinster worst enemy. And she dehumanizes Rahil and Amu and secretly envies Mamaji. And she is the representative of a family uh, who a family whose dominating ideology is a patriarchy, and there is a textual quotation that family has strict classification between jam and jelly, and there is another textual quotation that they all broke rules, they all crossed forbidden territory. And there is another quotation that it was a time when unthinkable became thinkable and the impossible really happened. This, these all textual quotations reflects the patriarchal setup that is based on injustice, inequality, and male chauvinist society and male chauvinist behavior as well. And next is the subjugation of women, and in that point, I would like to add that subjugation of women, it starts with family, and it continues from one generation to another. For example, the first generation, that is Papachi and Mamachi and baby Kochama, while their second generation is Chaku, Amu, and Baba, and we can also count Velutha. And in third generation, there is Sufimol, Istha, and Rahil. So this is the ideology, the family ideology that is based on patriarchy, that how they treat a girl and a boy, uh, and secondly, the subjugation of women also reflect a socio-political condition of South India with ironic detachment, and it also highlights each and every incident that is happening in the novel, and that is moving from fidelity to reality. In this slide, I'm going to discuss the caste and gender marginalization. So, the first point is about the caste system of India. And according to their scripture, Rig Veda, there are four main castes. And these four castes are like Brahmins, and that consists of priests, scholars, teachers, and a second one is Kshatriyas, that are rulers, warriors, and administrators. Third one is Vaishyas, that are agriculturalists and merchants. Last caste, that is the most inferior caste, is Shudras, and that consists of laborers and service providers. As far as their history is concerned, all these four castes each perform function in that sustaining social life. And since 1935, that Shudras, the last inferior, the most inferior caste, in since 1935, that are considered as untouchables, and these untouchables have been called the scheduled caste. They are also called by Mahatma Gandhi's name for them, that is Harijan, and the meaning of Harijan is the children of God. And most recently, these groups began to refer to themselves as Dalits, Dalits, Dalits. And we used to speak that word Dalit in Urdu as well. So this is a Hindi word which means oppressed or downtrodden. And a scholar, that is R.J. Yadav, who used to write that Dalit is a Sanskrit word, and it means downtrodden, oppressed, and exploited. And there was a change in their in their status from between 1888 to 1892, and all main Syrian Christians denominations, those that claim the Apostle Thomas as their founder, Thomas as their founder, and use Syriac as liturgical language, initiated evangelic societies that sought out low caste, convert, and built schools and chapels for them. And this novel, it also refers that the schools and the chapels and that societies for them are separate. And in this novel, Arundhati also points even Paravans, that is the caste of Velutha, Paravans converted into Christianity, but uh, they were made their separate churches with separate services and separate priests, and thus continued to be treated as untouchables. So, after converting into Christianity, the forecast, the function, the performance, the status remains the same.